Pyrenees now. We're in the Principality of Andorra. We've just seen a first-year French professional have the greatest moment of his life. Bryce Feylieu has won the stage here, and there's been a battle for the yellow jersey. It's going to be decided by 3 riders. We're waiting to work it out for ourselves. The arrival, though, of the yellow jersey coming in, the clock, Paul, has just reached 9 minutes. It's definitely gone.
Well, I don't think anybody really would be over-surprised by the crumbling of Fabian Cancellara. He's a great rider in the individual time trialer. He's a great battler on the flatlands of races like the Tour de France, but he never really has been a massive, big mountain goat. He's had 6 days in that yellow jersey, and he's enjoyed them.
Let's move on to the Cadillac Performance highlights then. At the start today, at last the sun has returned to Barcelona, as we raced across this square on the previous day, yesterday, up towards the finish on Montjuic. That was the rollout. The first climb that came along was the first category climb that mattered, the Col de Serra Seca. This is where we had a leading group of 9 riders who were in double figures ahead of the main field.
Yes, that early morning breakaway built themselves up a maximum advantage of almost 13 minutes before the main field started to attack. But it was always at the front of the main field almost throughout the whole of the day, despite this little traffic jam on the climb field because of a crash that was led by Team Astana. They announced the colours early on that they wanted to take this race by the horns.
On to the 4th climb of the day, which was the Porta del Comte, has taken them into the last 87 kilometres, and again it was Christophe Riblon who was taking all of the action out front and snatching the points in the King of the Mountains competition. Meanwhile, Astana was completely controlling the race with virtually all of their riders. They weren't too worried about the breakaway, they were just keeping a fast tempo. Poor old yellow jersey, flat tyres for him today.
Flat tyre on a descent that was an extremely precarious descent, but he didn't really seem to panic all that much as Fabian Cancellara raced back into the field at speeds in excess of 60 miles an hour. Now, how about that for a little bit of bike handling? That's judging it to almost perfection.
Beautiful piece of cornering there as he flicks around the Garmin slipstream car, but another flat tyre. Just got back in time to change the front wheel this time. So with a pair of new wheels in, he did get back into the pack, but how much did that take out of him today? He rejoined the Astana. They entered Andorra. They were still a long way behind these 9 leading riders who are blazing a private route of their own. Then this crash in Andorra caught a few big names out.
Well, a number of riders went down here, and there was a lot of scrambling to try and get back into the front end of the main field. Most of the guys at the back were really the sprinters, and it took them a long time. One of the major casualties, though, was number 24, Levi Leipheimer. Eventually, he clawed his way back into the main field, and some on-the-move mechanics and adjustments had him still in contact with the leading group of contenders.
So Leipheimer did well to get back into the action, and he soon moved back up front with his Team Astana mates as they continued a tempo that would eventually break the yellow jersey.
The team used their men up one by one to set the pacemaking at the front end of the main field until they got to the steeper parts of the climb. A little bit further up in the leading group that started off being 9 riders, attack followed attack, and the first man to really launch the attack was this young rider, Nocentini, but he was very quickly countered by one of the youngest riders in the race, Bryce Feylieu, who opened up a slight gap.
Nocentini in the breakaway, 3 minutes 13 seconds behind Cancellara and Armstrong at the start of the day. He was the next likely man to succeed if he could hold the gap. Cancellara was cracking big time. He tried to hang on in there, and he was only just short of succeeding. But once you crack, you just go.
And once you're feeling the chance of possibly winning a big mountain stage of the Tour de France, you seem to push wings, and the man at the front, Bryce Feylieu, was opening up the gap all of the time. Looking back for confirmation, he knew at this point he had a 30-second advantage over the chasers.
3 kilometres to go, and the leaders were down to 1 man. And Bryce Feylieu in his first Tour de France had flown and was heading to victory. Lance Armstrong still looked comfortable. The whole team was still sitting there. And then came an attack from Cadel Evans and quickly countered by Alberto Contador.
Well, they've matched the moves by Cadel Evans, and then all of a sudden decided he wanted to send another of his men out to try and put Armstrong into difficulty. But almost as soon as Armstrong had been put into difficulty, Team Astana were in control. At 1 kilometre to go, this is when the big acceleration came from Alberto Contador, fed up with all the little attacks from everyone else. Andy Schleck tried to cover the move, but when Alberto Contador goes on the slopes of a climb, it's very difficult to pull him back.
He attacked so fast he had to freewheel around the corner on the steep slopes to regain his momentum. once clear. Andy Schleck still trying to hold him in their sights. At the finishing line with nobody to challenge him, France got the victory with Brice Ferrier, 24 years of age he is. Christophe Kern, another Frenchman, was over there in second place. Contador came in, the clocks were starting now. We don't know, or we didn't know, the time of Nocentini. So where would yellow go? Cadel Evans cleaned up with Bradley Wiggins, Andy Schleck right on his back wheel, and Lance Armstrong. He's come through the test A1+.
He certainly has proved that he can climb and rival everybody else in this bike race.
Well, those are our Cadillac performance highlights, and now I think we can find out the stage results here. Ferrier getting the win, very strange. France 1-2 in a Tour de France stage. Johannes Freudlinger of Germany, the first time in the Tour, got third. Nocentini, a first time in the Tour, got fourth. We're waiting to find out the answer there. Igor Martinez, I think he's ridden the Tour 8 times, in the fifth. Further down, all the breakaway, Riblon 6th, Pinot 7th. They all survived. 8th was Gutierrez, and then came Alberto Contador, best of the rest, at 3:26. And he claimed a few seconds, 21 in fact, on Cadel Evans. That's another loss for Cadel, which doesn't all well. Andy Schleck loses the same amount of time as does Wiggins. Frank Schleck is in there too. Levi Leipheimer recovers to finish with them. Lance Armstrong finishes 15th, all in the same time. So who has got the yellow jersey? Tony Martin is 16th as well. He will certainly keep the leader's white jersey and might even move more clear of the field with that. Christian van der Velde hangs on in there. Well done, Christian, in 20th place, all same time.
Well, a pretty dramatic run into the finish, and a real attack there by Alberto Contador, proving that he has got the legs in the Tour de France. But I think Armstrong was also pretty impressive too, Phil, because he covered a lot of those moves. And once Cadel Evans tried to chase down Alberto Contador at the end, Armstrong turned around from being a team leader to being a team helper. Yep. He played the game, he played the team game, and those boys have got a lot more fighting to do out on the open roads. Let's not forget, we've got 2 more massive days through the Pyrenees when anything can happen and things can turn around.
Well, I would think that Lance Armstrong is a very happy man tonight with the way things have gone, and I can tell you we have just got an interview with him, but before we sort it out, we'll take a break and rejoin us. We still don't know who the leader of the Tour is, Lance, Alberto, or is it Ronaldo? We'll see you in just a moment. We'll sort it out in the end. Coming up then, the podiums and Lance.